The percentage of each population agreeing that our people are not perfect, but our culture is still superior to others. And immediately we have Greece down here with 89%. Then we have the rest of the Balkans almost entirely in the 60s as well. Then there's Russia that's almost pushing 70. There seems to be a bit of a pattern here. It's really coming from this part of the continent. Interestingly, Spain is one of the lowest, but their neighbor Portugal is like twice as high. The Baltics and Sweden are pretty low, but I didn't know they were that prideful in Norway. I love that the outline of Iceland is hiding behind the title. Also, what's up with these colors? 65% for Serbia and 65% for Croatia. These two can never be on the same side, can they? Average time spent in bed in each country. Finland and the Netherlands tops the list with over 7 hours and 37 minutes. Although the British and Irish are pretty close. Is there a correlation between lack of sleep and having a better culture? Because this map seems to be kind of similar to the other one. But the shortest of all is Turkey with only 6 hours and 50 minutes. And there's a lot of missing countries from this list. I want to see the worldwide version of this map though. I was literally just thinking today, how does one just get 8 hours of sleep? I know this is recommending 7, but like, how do you do that? I don't understand. There are so many nights where my body literally refuses to sleep longer than like 5 hours. I hate myself so much. Stored nuclear waste by state? Illinois, what the hell are you doing? Why are they storing more than 10,000 metric tons of nuclear waste? You guys are just asking for Godzilla to pop out of Lake Michigan. At least I hope you're not pumping it into some sort of water system. So it looks like this map really just comes down to the amount of nuclear reactors, and Illinois has the most with 11. 54% of this state's power generation comes from nuclear. So this map might not be considered a bad thing considering there's other dirtier energy sources. Distribution of German speakers before World War II and after World War II. It's just like they all disappeared. So this first map is coming from the 1910 census, or back when they were still the Empire of Germany. So technically this is even before World War I. And you'll notice there were a lot more German speakers over this way, specifically like where the Prussian region is. And now, of course, like 100 years later, they are barely outside of their own modern day borders. There are a couple of spots still in Poland that have some German speakers, but it's nowhere where it used to be. What's even more shocking to me is how language has stayed pretty much the same in Switzerland. They are like a trilingual country. How have they managed to keep this country together for so long, even though there's people speaking all sorts of things in it? I love that Austria has also pretty much stayed the exact same as well, but that shouldn't be too surprising. I guess this is what happens when you lose 2 world wars. Venezuela is bleeding. 6 million Venezuelans have left the country in the past 8 years. That is actually 20% of their entire population. You can even see it in this line graph. And here's exactly where the population is going, usually to other South American countries. Brazil is a little bit of a surprise, and so is Spain. Are there many Portuguese speakers in Venezuela? Of course, the USA is up there, but they are not number 1, actually. That happens to be Colombia. I mean, they're right there next to Venezuela, so that makes sense. It looks like you can actually see a slight tick up where Venezuela is going down, Colombia is going up. Besides Spanish, Chinese is the second most popular language. What is going on here? They do have some Portuguese speakers, but you know, the Italians are kind of close behind. 5,000 people on average leave a day. How profitable is Google really? So they make most of their money through Google search, almost 40 billion. Then there's whatever Google network is, and then YouTube with the least amount. Uh-oh, I'm about to be out of a job. So all 3 of these sources contribute to ad revenue. That's how they're making a lot of their money. But they also make money through Google Cloud and then whatever other is. So in total, it's about 68 billion a year. However, we have to consider cost of revenue, 30 billion down the drain right there. Then other operating expenses like R&D, sales and marketing, and general admin. So their operating profit goes down to 20 billion. Then you have to tack on tax and whatever other is. Nothing more ominous than other. So their net profit is actually only 16 billion or 24% margin, which is still pretty good compared to other companies. 24%. At least they make it money. A lot of companies ain't even making money. Tools used, Figma. And then this chat replies, Figma balls. Is that another variant of Ligma? India's population distribution by age starting in the 60s. Now, if I remember correctly, there's a lot of young people living in India, which is why their population is going to continue to boom. So the yellow are the youngest, people living from 0 to 20. Then the blue is 21 to 64-year-olds. And the median continues to tick up and up as we go, or actually way into the future. This is actually what the age distribution looks like right now. So yeah, there aren't that many older people plus 65. So in the coming decades, that huge spike is going to get older and older, and we're assuming there's going to be less kids being born. So the The younger people are leaving, and then there's going to be a huge influx of old people by 2080. I'm not going to be around to see that. I like this huge spike here for plus 100. There's going to be a lot of really old people running around too. It's crazy to see the map in 1952 with just a ton of young people under 5. In 1979, 52% of the country was under the age of 20 years old. That must have been a wild time. Camouflage patterns of European countries. And interestingly, even for the countries that border each other, they have drastically different camouflage. Why does Belgium use so much yellow? Is it to represent their flag? I guess Sweden and Norway kind of have similar tones. Latvia is also using a lot of tan colors. Is Latvia this tinted, I guess? I thought it was cold. I mean, technically you can use whatever camouflage pattern you want if you're brave enough. There's nothing stopping Germany here from just using a hot pink, the rhythm of major American professional sports. So in the beginning of the year, it looks like there's only a couple sports happening in January. The NBA is going hard because they have a lot of different events on every day. The NFL look a lot more spaced apart because most of their games are played on weekends. I guess hockey does the same thing as basketball. They like play games all the time. I didn't even know that. Baseball starts up April 1st, and that's when they also go. They also do just a bunch of different games every day. Also, you'll actually notice that the circles get smaller because they're playing less games, and that's usually because they're in the playoffs. So all these large circles are still the regular season in whatever sport it is, and they get smaller and smaller, obviously, as they approach the championship. It's so crazy to me that America's favorite sport, the NFL, really only plays for half the year, compared to most of these other leagues who are playing year-round. You'd think like they would do things over here, like what the XFL tried. All-time hottest temperatures in England, and the red bars are all from the last 5 years. So for the first time in 2022, this part of England got to 40 degrees Celsius, which is 104 degrees Fahrenheit, which is so crazy to me because when you compare latitudes, that's like the middle of Canada getting to be 100 degrees. It's like a little freaky to think about this part of Canada just being basically on fire. Like, what would that mean for the rest of the US down here? You can see things were slowly approaching 40 degrees Celsius over time. What happened in 1911? And then we get the turn of the new century and things just continue to blast off. If the US and Canada for some reason decided to only use the 49th parallel to draw their borders. So things along North Dakota, Montana, Idaho mostly stay the same, but then things get real crazy as you approach the east. We almost have now a monopoly over the Great Lakes, and we're also getting a little island out of it too over here. But the most impactful thing about this is easily over like 50% of Canada's entire population. If the US just took nothing but this, there'd be like no Canadians left. This is where half of them live, and this isn't even the 49th parallel. This is only the 45th. So we'd be getting even more out of it. I don't know how much exactly. Maybe we'd be pushing 60, but it's funny, even though they'd only have like 20 million people living in their country, they'd still be, I think, maybe second or third biggest country in terms of land area. There's just still so much up here. When the Sahara Desert was green about 10,000 years ago, so I'm assuming this was when Europe was probably in some massive ice age. Also helps that there's these huge old lakes right here, and also don't forget about the most Chad lake of them all, Lake Chad. Is this like a little island or some sort of peninsula thing that's going on? It's crazy to think about how different human civilization would have been if this was the reality. If Europe was pretty much as cold as Canada is, then humans would have to pretty much just stay here, but then they wouldn't be able to use the convenience of the Mediterranean to sail around and explore the world. This area looks a lot more green too, so does a civilization from like the Middle East pretty much take over? How long for an English speaker to become proficient in a language? These are ranked by different categories. So for all those red places, that's category 5 or 88 weeks. A year and a half to learn Chinese? That doesn't actually sound that bad. Also for like all these Arabic languages as well. For a lot of European countries like Iberia, the Italian Peninsula, the Nordic lands, they're saying all you need is 24 weeks to become proficient. I'm assuming that's like doing nothing but talking this language, right? I don't think like 24 weeks of Duolingo is really gonna help you out here. French is the only outlier. They removed from category 1 to category 2, and it gets more and more difficult the further out into Eastern Europe you try to go to. I'm just glad the memes were right that Hungarian is a very difficult language to learn. It's like the one outlier here. This is claiming it would take you longer to learn this language than pretty much everything else in the continent, although Estonian and Finnish are pretty difficult as well. Japanese is the hardest though in the dark red. They're not giving you an exact time frame, but more than 88 weeks. So give the weebs some credit. They might be out here just swinging their samurai sword at times, but their knowledge of Japanese is impressive. I wonder if anime alone could single-handedly turn Japanese from category 5 to like category 3. I could have learned Chinese instead of playing Hoi 4 for 3,500 hours. That's probably what we need to start doing. And big thanks to my patrons: Isaac, I guess, Australia's, Sussiest, Chungus, Aushtin, Powersh, Fazha, ASUSOmen, aPhatNarwhal. My name is Joe Biden. I love being Joe Biden. Drew's Argentinian grandpa. Cowboys 83. Barnsky W. GoodOldRyah. GoodOldRyah. Jakov. Bruney. MarcoHindera. Ortin 5610. Phresh Animations. The Mexican Why am I doing this? In the Conqueror